Hey teens, Pastor Chris here with our Wednesday devotional. I know this is coming to you kind of late, and I don't want you to forget that tonight we are actually going live at 6:30 on Twitch. You can find us over at twitch.tv/prodigal youth and hang out with us over there, and we're going to have a good time. But for right now, we're going through the daily life of Jesus during Holy Week, which is the week leading up to Easter, and we're reading different sections of his life from the different days as he was on earth. And today is Wednesday, so we're going to read about what happened to Jesus on Wednesday, and specifically we're going to look at Jesus and Judas today. So I'm in Matthew 26, starting in verse 6. So if you have a Bible, grab it, open on up there with me, and over to the side of my head here is my Bible with my personal remarks and things like that, and I'm going to jump into it and read it, and then we're going to talk about it. All right, here we go. While Jesus was in Bethany in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she had poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. "Why this waste?" they asked. "This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me." When she had poured the perfume on picking up again. Let's just start at verse 10. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for my burial. Truly, I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportune time to hand him over. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about here really quick. So just an important thing to talk about. You see up here at the top, I've got this first verse underlined. And this is the disciples' response to what this woman does. So Jesus is at a town called Bethany. And notice, too, that not only is he at this town called Bethany, but he's in a place called the home of Simon the leper. Ooh, just went out of focus. There it is. You see Simon the leper up there, right? Which means this guy Simon was a guy who had leprosy. That's all we know about him. We don't know much more about him. And Jesus was just hanging out, chilling at his home. When this woman comes up, most people believe this woman is Mary Magdalene. She comes up and she dumps the perfume on Jesus' head. And it's probably all she had to her name, or maybe an important family heirloom that had been passed down. But it was expensive, obviously, because the disciples react, and you see I've got this verse underlined. They say, when the disciples saw this, they were indignant. Remember that word indignant from Monday when we talked about Jesus being angry and upset, right? That's what indignant means. "Why this waste?" they asked. "This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor," right? Well, Jesus comes back at them, and he's actually upset that they're thinking about selling this perfume and giving it to the poor, right? He says, "The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me with you." So in Matthew, it doesn't tell us who said this. It just said, when the disciples saw this, they were angry. And one of them says, "Why this waste?" But if you're reading through the whole gospel, right, all 4 books of it, and you jump over to John, you'll actually see that John tells us who or which disciple it was that said this line, that was angry. And subsequently, he's also the disciple that Jesus scolds here in this scene too. And so if we jump over to John, you see that it's actually Judas Iscariot who says, "Why this waste? The perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." And Judas, it's believed, was probably their treasurer and their money keeper, and so he had access to all of the money that the disciples had. And so it makes sense why he's thinking about the poor here. But Jesus turns around and scolds him. And then it's interesting to note that the next story we see right below that last little bit we read, is Judas agreeing to betray Jesus, right? He goes to the Pharisees after this, and he asks, okay, what will you give me if I give Jesus over to you? And the Pharisees say, well, we'll give you 30 pieces of silver. Here you go. Which we've talked about before is not a lot of money. It's probably about the equivalent of $200 in our currency today, currently. So not a lot of money to betray a friend. But one of the things that I think is important for us to understand as we read this is why Judas betrays Jesus in the first place, right? Why does he decide, all right, I'm gonna sell Jesus to the highest bidder. This is it. And the answer is found in this first half of the story. He's angry, he's hurt, he's upset. Jesus has scolded him, and so now he wants to just get back at him any way he can, and so he goes off and does this. And see, it's funny that this one moment of momentary anger at this remark that Jesus makes to him is what causes the crucifixion of Jesus in the long run, right? Had Judas just said, okay, you know what, I see Jesus's point, or maybe Jesus makes a good point here, he would not have gone and done this, and thus Jesus would not have been crucified. But out of his anger, out of this quick momentary reaction, he goes off and does this. And it's important for us to remember that in our anger, we can make similar mistakes that have repercussions we don't even know that are going to happen, right? One quick analogy that I like to use is if somebody takes a mirror and breaks it, right? You can say, I'm sorry all you want, but you can never put that mirror back together again in the same way. You can glue the pieces back together, but the cracks will always be there. And so when we act out of anger without thinking about the consequences of what we're doing, we're behaving like Judas Iscariot. And that is not company you want to find yourself in on this Holy Week. Well, that's our little devotional for today. I hope you guys are doing well. I miss seeing you guys at youth group. I look forward to talking to you guys tonight on the chat at Twitch. So make sure you head over to Twitch /Prodigal Youth and hang out with us tonight. We're doing a mix of trivia. So look forward to seeing you there. Goodbye.